Using the customer journey to bridge business and development. Today's 10 minutes short discussion topic. I'm Joshua Barnes, and I'm joined once again by my partner, Al Shalloway. And before we get into our topic today, Al and I just wanted to take a moment to just, for one, thank everyone for joining these events live as well as watching them on the replay. We've done, obviously, a number of them over the course of the year. And we wanted to share just a little bit about what we've been working on and what's going to lead us into the new year. Al's going to cover some of the amazing stuff that he's been doing with Amplio. And I thought I'd take a moment just to talk a bit about some of the things that I have been working on that really plugs into to Al's work. And some of that is based off of the work we do with sort of a private training and coaching as part of our engagement model. And if we're looking at how to improve organizational agility, well, there are some pretty big things that leadership and executives are typically looking for. Things like, accelerating time to market and decreasing work in progress and, improving visibility. And what we're going to be doing as we move into next year is we're going to offer training that really focuses on some of those sort of key drivers that organizations are looking for. So for things like accelerating time to market and improving delivery predictability, well, we've got training that typically has been part of a larger offering, 1 day to 2 or 3 days, depending on the configuration. We're going to have a lot of half-day or shorter sessions, for instance, a 4-hour half-day session on identifying delays in the workflow and reducing delays and accumulated risk. So those are some of the exciting things that I'll talk a little bit more about as we get into the new year. And Al, you want to share a little bit of where Amplio's been going?
Yeah. I think this is, I know, a challenging time for a lot of people with the shift in like the questioning about Agile's effectiveness and things like that and a lot of layoffs. But I'm actually going to be offering a lot of services that are directed to that, and some of them free. As we talk about this work, this presentation I'll be going on Wednesday. This is a pre-look at it. That's part of the Amplio community practice, which is free to join, and it's several months. We're going to think of it as a guided self-study where a lot of Amplio and other interesting things will be discussed. So this happens to be the second session of when we've started this. So I invite you to join me because it'll be really useful. But I'm also dealing with a lot of things. I just announced Amplio Scrum. I'll be doing more detailed announcement of how do you take, what would Scrum be like if it was based on lean flow theory constraints and wasn't immutable and was more sufficient and, not so difficult to master and things of that nature based on systems thinking. So I have a couple workshops on that, and the Amplio Scrum can be something done not on site. We don't do that much anymore, but for private. And so there's a lot of things to look at. And I'm restarting this Amplio Value Coach. I just completed the content today. That continues for another 5 months with Dr. Azen sessions weekly. That's the thing. All my work is done as learning journeys. You get some content for a few weeks, a couple hours a day, every other day or over a week. But then you stay in touch with me and you learn over time. So you get good initial starts and then extend your knowledge. So it's a different way of training. It's really it's a very effective way of training than just the dump for 2 days and then you're on your own. So join me for that. But also, if you've got issues where in your company you're trying to get something done at a low cost but very effective. And when I say low cost, I don't mean my daily rate's so low. I really mean it's low cost because training and coaching is integrated in, so you don't have to do lots and lots when you shouldn't have to do lots and lots because of the new technology. So please contact me. The best way is also join the ACOP, as I call it, the Amplio Community of Practice, where that's free and you'll get access to a lot of information in terms of how to learn. Yeah, that's it as a quick thing. I'm really excited about next year. Challenges do create opportunities, but you've got to shift in what the opportunities are.
So as a bit of a lead in right into the remainder of the discussion that Al's going to cover today and some of what he has on the graphic here, right? We've talked quite a bit in previous live streams like this, as well as things that we've written on, the importance of minimum business increments, focusing in on the smallest thing we can do that's of value. And then there's some other gears, right? Full kitting and the customer journey and customer journey mapping. So Al, why don't we just get right into it?
Yeah, let me give you a history of this. So minimum business increments, MBIs, are basically the next thing you could release, the quickest value delivery you have, including it's worth the transaction costs. And we've used these for quite some time. Their heritage is the minimum marketable feature by Denny and Cleveland Wang of software by numbers, which is nothing at all like what SAFe is using them for. I know it references the book and gives the same name, but it's not the same. And we use MBIs, this, what we're going to work on next, like a release, instead of like a sprint release, say it's like, what's the value release we're doing? And I was coming up with this idea of what we called a way to decompose MBIs into stories. I saw what Jeff Patton had done, and on our MBI decomposition, we had like some story mapping like he did. But then it occurred to me, one of the key differences in Amplio, even at the team, is we pay attention to the context in the organization within which you're doing work, which is very useful. So we added to it, MBIs include things called full kitting, like what does it take to get this out the door? And then we added some things like how do you make sure you're coordinating with other organizations in your organization, like maybe documentation, support, whatever. And I started making this board on this decomposition, basically doing it within the context of what we're trying to accomplish. And the more I got into it, I realized, let's take it all the way up to the top. And in other words, what are the stakeholders involved? What is the values? What are the values of the stakeholders? What is the success criteria? And then think about it like I've got my developers, but what's the context all this creates? So you've got, what do the stakeholders need to give to the developers to do this? What are other parts in the organization needing to relate? Because systems are about the relationships between things. So it then hit me that this is a great way to integrate the holistic view of the business stakeholders with the development team and ops. And you need three things mostly for this. You need minimum business increments, because this is the focus on what we're actually delivering value, so that'll be consumed. That requires who is needed. That's the full kitting. This is a theory of constraints concept. The customer journey is basically how the customer does the work with the system you're building and on their own. So it's the full process, not just how they're using your system, but what they do on and off. And it's based, again, on what value. And the interesting thing about the customer journey is changes your focus from your system, which is very myopic and not effective, and why software is usually difficult to use, to how the customer is thinking and what they're trying to accomplish. This is not a new concept. I was doing this in the mid-'80s. I'd learned it from an interesting company where they were doing it. And I said, oh, this is interesting. And I actually asked them, they were building products, so they weren't espousing it, but I was using their products. And I knew the owners and all that. And I said, hey, are you guys doing this? And they said, yes, we are. And the whole thing was built from how the customer wanted to create value for themselves. So the general idea is, if you look at what we're trying to create for the customer, and you say, we're going to add value to the customer, innovate for the customer within the context of our stakeholders and all the other organizations in our bigger company that developer needs to know. It brings all these together in a systemic point of view where everybody can say, hey, here's what I need. Here's how we collaborate with each other. And what's cool is at the same time, it now creates autonomy, not autonomy, wrong word, but development can self-manage within those constraints. They have to attend to the things outside of them, but within their own organization, they get to build it the way they want to. And what's really nice about this, people talk about sometimes becoming feature factories. Well, you won't do that with this, because you'll see the why. And the power of this is at Net Objectives, which was where I was before the PMI and then before where I am now at Success Engineering. We found that managers, when they truly understood why coming from what's the next thing I could release, they transformed literally that one concept enabled them to transform their organization. Sometimes it was a team, sometimes it was hundreds of people, because everybody aligned around what they could do next. Alignment is way more efficient than coordination. You need coordination, but it's a lot easier when you have alignment. So this is really what this talk will be. It's a great thing to start in the ACOP. And I invite you to come. We use a Miro board where you'll learn some things. No, actually, I'm sorry. This one is actually a normal PowerPoint presentation. The first session we had was actually about factors for effective value streams and how you learn. You'll learn some new training techniques in the ACOP. Okay, so I'm done with this, but I forgot one thing to mention. I am offering for the second time a workshop called the Amplio Value Coach, which has got some very cool things about how to be a coach, much more insightful than what you normally would get. It's not just about listening and better. It gives you the techniques and tools that underscores how people learn and think and resist. And if you're interested in that, it starts next year. And anybody who contacts me before the end of this week, I'll give you a $100 coupon off for watching us. It's otherwise $9.95. I'll give you $100 off. So please contact me for that. Okay, back to you, Joshua.
Yeah. So a few other things I'll mention is that a lot of the content that Al covers is within the collaboration tool, right? It's within Miro. And so not only are you able to see new practices and techniques and put them into your situation and ask questions, but you're interacting with something that you're going to be able to use. Sometimes there is, just, sort of slideware and content, but the vast majority of the time, it's a lot more interactive, and it's something that prepares you to just get on with doing whatever that is in your situation. So, yeah, that's a pretty big differentiator in the majority of the types of offerings that are out there.
Yeah, it allows for one other thing, which has been neglected in the industry. People always talk about you have to do it before you understand it. And it's like, okay, I'll give you a concept. Now going forward, you'll learn it. But actually, you can go backward and learn. What do I mean by that? When a concept is presented and you could pull from your own experience and understand the concept from your own experience, you go way faster because you understand it on your own. And these Miro boards enable, I use that to what we call access your own dormant knowledge. So it's about accelerated approaches. And this is part of what both Joshua and I are doing. Look, the world is changing. What people haven't realized yet is we've still been living off last year's budget. Come January, we're going to be living off next year's budget. And next year's budget has a lot more cuts that you haven't even seen yet. So we need to get better. And you don't get better by working harder. You get better by doing something different that's better. And I think that's what both of us are presenting to y'all.
Yeah, so our next session is going to be on the 8th of January. And one of the things that we're going to do, just like today, is we'll introduce some of the, little preview of a session. And that way you can determine, hey, is this something that I'm interested in, something that might help me? And if it is, then you can come prepared to ask questions, again, based on your situation. So we're trying to make it so it's even more valuable, right? Not just coming and listening to a one-way sort of communication channel where, right, it's just somebody reading off of a bunch of slides. You have an opportunity to be thinking about, oh, well, maybe this is something that I can ask. So
please do.
And with that, happy holidays to everyone, no matter where you are and what type of holiday it is. And if you have any thoughts or any feedback as far as any challenges you have, any techniques you would like us to potentially cover, put them in leave a comment on LinkedIn. Address is above. And otherwise, we will see you next year.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks, everyone.